All right, so I'll be bringing you more of these stories in business on this show, The Marketplace. This is the midweek edition. Thank you very much for joining me. Welcome back. Now, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ubami Tete, has stated that his outfit has taken the necessary steps to resolve some complaints received from customers of Gold Coast Fund Management, such as the hearings on complaints and meetings with senior management. Speaking on the Super Morning Show with host Daniel Dazi, he stated that Gold Coast Fund Management has presented a proposal to the regulator on the way forward in dealing with customers' locked-up funds. However, he noted the proposal will require further and better particulars.
We received quite a number of complaints at the Commission about this unfortunate turn of events. And what we have been doing is we have been organizing hearing sessions on these complaints. What we've also been doing is to be meeting with the senior management of the Gold Coast Fund Management Company in terms of what steps they are taking to redress these issues, and we put them on a more stringent reporting regime. For instance, every week we required of them to submit information, the clients they have paid, steps they are taking towards the resolution of their liquidity issues. A few months back, we privately directed them to stop taking new deposits because we wanted them to focus on resolving their current liquidity issues. And then we asked them to submit a detailed proposal on how they were actually going to work around the liquidity issues that they are currently faced with. So, I mean, this has always been on the quiet, and we've been dealing with them on the quiet. But we recently decided to put out a notice to, if you like, let investors be aware that the SEC is aware of the complaints that have been coming through or the difficulties investors are having, getting their money from Gold Coast, and also the fact that we've given some directives to them, and the fact that they have submitted some proposal of sort. I call it proposal of sort because we had quite a number of questions about it. It didn't provide all the details that we were hoping to get for us to, if you like, give them the approval to go ahead. And so we've asked them, to come back with, more, if you like, further and better particulars so that we can assess the credibility of the plan.
We'll be bringing you more of that interview in our subsequent bulletins. Let's turn our attention now to energy. And the Ghana National Gas Company at Atrabo in the Western region has achieved 16 million man-hours operational time without any fatality or accident since its establishment in 2011. General Manager in charge of operations at the Ghana Gas, Robert Kofi Lati, revealed this when the Parliamentary Select Committee on Mines and Energy visited the gas processing plant at Atrabo on Monday. The visit afforded the members of the committee opportunity to be abreast of the state of the facility at the gas processing plant.
The Vice Chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Mines and Energy, George Mrekuduka, has commended Ghana Gas Company for undertaking an expansion exercise to enable it to process more gas by 2024 for both national power generation plants and for private businesses. He underscored good management in the petroleum industry and assured management of the gas processing plant of the committee's support in all the activities to ensure regular supply of electricity.
The expectation has been very impressive, and I say congratulations to them. If you come in terms of local content, we having all the engineers, being Ghanaians, and that is really motivating enough to all Ghanaians. Not really, but Ghanaians are also aware of the tie-in process, the reverse flow that we've been talking of, and we knew we were going to ask questions with regards to the reverse flow tie-in, and we were well answered that Ghana Gas has been playing, sensitive role in ensuring that the tie-in process is done. So I believe the doomsaw attitude that people think we may go there, I don't think we'll ever experience the doomsaw. We have competent people in the helm of affairs, and we need not to be thinking of going back to doomsaw with this setup.
Former Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Emmanuel Amakofibua, was however not happy with the safety measures and community engagement Ghana Gas has with its host communities.
Where the Ghana guys had explained that they have community liaison officers, but it's very clear to me that is not adequate, and there's the need for Ghana Gas as an organization to engage the community properly. You cannot operate in the community and not empower them in terms of understanding, especially when the issues has to do with safety and gas issues. How many members of Anochi, the next community here, understand gas properly, such a way that when we have an unfortunate incident, they can react to it? So I think our proposal to Ghana Gas is that they have to engage the community more than they have. Educate them, not on a one-time basis, but as an ongoing basis.
In response to this, General Manager in charge of operations at Ghana Gas, Robert Kofilate, indicated the company takes safety issues seriously and so had set up community liaison officers who were trained periodically on safety-related matters.
We have community liaison officers, and periodically we train them on safety-related matters as far as our operations are concerned. We also ensure that within that community, that small sector, that they are representing the indigenous and they understand their language. Once we impart those knowledge on safety, health, and all our safety management evacuation programs and what have you, these community liaison officers, not only here in Atwaro, beyond, up to Takoradi, Etiama to Presia, we make sure that those people are able to communicate our operation to them and also engage them periodically.
A ranking member of the committee, Adams Mutawakilo, told Joy Business that he is impressed with the manner in which Ghanaians are able to manage the infrastructure.
Quite excited for our own infrastructure of this nature, Ghana Gas Company. That was initiated by President Mills. Two, I'm impressed with the manner in which Ghanaians are able to manage this infrastructure. It's amazing. We've gone around. If you see the environment, it is world-class environment. You look at the safety record, it's world-class. If you look at the personnel that are managing it, gives you a clear manifestation that when we are given our own asset, we can manage it better.
For Joy Business in Athalia Kwansa, Abuaze.
Now, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, has raised concerns about government's reliance on petroleum revenues to pay both domestic and international debts. The committee, at a round-table discussion in Accra, called on government to prioritize other sectors of the economy in the payment of loans and servicing its Eurobonds instead of petroleum revenues. Here's more in this report.
The Stabilization Fund is a component of a petroleum holding funds. It is set aside to be used for budgetary support in times of international shocks in oil prices beyond the control of government. According to the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, the frequent withdrawal of revenue from the Stabilization Fund is threatening its relevance. Senior Technical Officer of PIAC, Dennis J., has been speaking to journalists after the discussion.
Our experience has been that the 206 million that has been withdrawn in 2016 was way below the 75% reserve margin. Because if you withdraw 206 million and the balance is left with 381 million, that is way below 75%. Even if you do literal calculation, that is way below. And all these pose problems for the fund to perform its role in the future. Now, the law itself has been couched to allow for the minister to use the fund to do debt repayment, which is also part of the problem. So the problem is mainly the law and its implementation. The law allows the minister to cap. He decides to cap and use for debt repayment. The law allows the minister to use for debt repayment. He decides to use all the excess over the cap for debt repayment.
Responding to concerns by PIAC, Head of Petroleum Unit at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Asenso Boache, assured that the fund has accumulated enough revenue that can withstand any shock.
But for every year since 2014 when we have placed a cap, there would have been enough reserves in the stabilization fund to cater for any shocks that may have arisen.
So currently, do you have enough?
We do have enough. For this particular year, the cap is at 300 million. The ABFA is set up at about $400 million. So if even we fail to meet, let's say, 50% of the funds, you have 300 million to serve as a buffer for that.
The investment strategy of a petroleum fund has in recent times been questioned and considered a setback to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Ebenezer Sabutis reports for Joy Business.
Let's get on the phone lines now and speak with energy expert for his thoughts on these concerns by Pia. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the market, please.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers.
Now, do you share the same concerns as raised by the Public Interest Accountability Committee that government is over-relying on petroleum revenues to settle its loans and the Eurobonds?
Well, as you are aware, this issue keeps reoccurring. In 2014, I think the then minister capped the stabilization fund at 250, and I think the present energy minister capped the stabilization fund, I think, at 10. The issue that we will have is that the law that establishes the fund gives the minister the discretion to cap, or the finance ministry to be able to cap the fund. Now, when the cap is on and there is a set amount, like let's say in this case 300 million, then the asset money that are supposed to go into the fund will be utilized by government. For me, if we look at the debt stock that Ghana has, most of these debt stock was taken up because we have had the oil fund. So I don't see anything wrong if government now relies solely on the oil fine to pay back the loan which was contracted because of these oil fines.
Now, the catchword...
Ghana's debt position increased greatly after 2007 when we had these oil discoveries. And most of our loans, if you look at the projections, were said that we could pay it because we have made such discoveries in our offshores.
All right.
So for me, I don't think there's a problem with government having to use these revenues to pay off. Somebody has to pay for it. That
now,
Mr. Poku, has citizenry to pay for it or use oil revenue to pay.
So the catchword here is over-reliance. I mean, PIAC is concerned because the government is over-relying, apart from, also considering other sectors of the economy to derive, funds for its settlement of debts.
Look, let's be honest with ourselves. The government of Ghana does not have a lot of wiggle room. We don't have money. Look, government's only main source to revenue is either through sales of crude oil in this present time, taxation of citizenry, and maybe some investments that the government have done and export revenue that goes through our traditional exports. Traditional exports, we all know, are not doing so well. Cocoa this year and last year didn't do as well as we expected it to do. We don't want to overburden the citizenry with more taxes because people are faced with other burdens at the state. So the other ways that we can look to is the oil revenue. What else will government now go to take money? Meanwhile, it is because of these oil discoveries that both governments, be the NDC and the MPP, went into the market and borrowed heavily. Everybody is screaming for infrastructure development, but these are some of the costs that comes to a nation when you over-rely on borrowing heavily to do infrastructure. So there's not much we can do. Look, there is the Heritage Fund, which we all don't know when the Heritage Fund is supposed to be used. It says the future, but the question is, when is the future? We've gone, 10 years since 2010 when we found oil in 2007, production 2011, so we've done more like 9 years or 8 years now. When are we going to be able to use the Heritage Fund? When are we going to use the Stabilization Fund? So, government has to find money to do something. And I believe in taxation, but I think that if the oil revenue is there, why not use it to pay the debt?
All right, many thanks for your thoughts. Kwejo Poku is an energy expert sharing his thoughts on PIA's concern about government raising or over-relying on petroleum revenue to settle its debts. Moving on in energy, the Ministry of Energy says bad power agreements are foiling government's efforts at implementing alternative energy plans. Government will have to pay $500 million every year for power we do not need. Deputy Minister of Energy Joseph Kujo says people in hard-to-reach communities will be the most affected. There's more in this report by Odilia Tiamwa.
When it comes to setting up the fund, those things that should be done to roll out renewable energy, it is my understanding that at the moment, the incentive to go aggressive in deploying solar It's really not. I wish you sit in here in the ministry and you know the kind of capacity payments we're making, the amounts we're paying for excess capacity. Excess capacity is costing us close to $500 million a year, and dollars. And this is part of the problem the previous government created for us. And so sometimes they get painful when you hear them talk the way they are talking, because they know they just signed PPAs as if Ghana is suffering PPA diarrhea. They just signed it, and at prices that were very much surprising. Now everywhere you go, travel anywhere, and everybody want to come and generate power in Ghana. And I say, hey, wait a minute. And they tell you generating power in Ghana is an attractive business, but it's all because exactly. So sometimes it gets very painful. Hear them, the damage they have done to the tariff level they signed and the excessive nature of the PPAs they've put into the system that is constraining us from using cheaper sources of power like the solar we're talking about.
This is the reason why the passage of the Renewable Energy Law in 2011 has been sketchy and virtually unachievable. So what is renewable energy in the first place? Energy from a source that is not depleted when used, such as wind or solar power. The renewable energy target set by the Energy Commission since the passage of the law is as follows: 2 million solar lanterns, 30,000 solar home systems, 20 to 26 megawatts of utility scale biomass and waste energy capacity, 150 to 250 megawatts of utility scale wind, and 50 to 150 megawatts of utility scale solar capacity. Hard to reach communities were expected to be the biggest benefactors of this plan to complement the use of the national grid by virtue of the allocation.
You're trying to attract investors to that space because the only option is off-grid electricity source. Okay, and investors are being wooed in. The problem there too is that, you know, those communities are not so much economically viable for them to be able to pay economic tariff. So if you look at the cost of making that power available to them and the tariff revenue that you will get, you see that there is a gross mismatch. So it goes with its own unique solution you want to prefer, and that is what has apparently been the problem to deal with.
For now, the only way is to reschedule some of the power purchase agreements for the future. While power purchase agreements pose a major setback, the high cost of solar panels and batteries for storage and the general technology for alternative energy are but a few of the issues. For this reason, the Renewable Energy Fund was to be set up for this purpose. 8 years on, the fund is not in place.
We need to have an appropriate financing mechanism to ensure that those who are interested but they can't afford upfront are able to get on to the technology. But
wasn't the Renewable Energy Fund, for example, expected to solve some of these challenges?
Yes, but that fund has never existed. Okay, so the Renewable Energy Fund has never been operationalized. It's in the Act, but it hasn't been operationalized. So that's something that we need to be looking at. And the whole idea is that, yes, it will help buy down the cost of capital so that people will be able to get access to that.
According to the Renewable Energy Act, a purchase obligation also required all power producers to have a component of renewable energy, and that also has not been implemented.
Aspect of that act that has also never been operationalized, that's the purchase obligation, the renewable energy purchase obligation that requires or enjoins bulk suppliers of electricity and also the producers of electricity to have a certain
component of their supply in renewables. Okay, if that had been the case, then it would have put the onus would have been on these people to either generate themselves or say that, okay, if my customers are going to do it, then I will take that as my having fulfilled my obligation. That has also not happened.
Jinko Solar is the world's leading solar panel producer. Marketing manager for Africa says despite all the challenges enumerated, Ghana is still a hub for West Africa.
We have identified Ghana as a strong future growth market, within Africa. And we will be deploying resources into the West African region, partly because of Ghana and the large growth that is expected in Ghana. So I don't know the exact numbers in Ghana in terms of how much of the population has access to grid electricity, but I know that for a large part of Africa, and I'm sure Ghana is very much in that conversation, many people do not have access to electricity and grid electricity, and that's where we foresee the future of solar playing a very large part.
A director at Trojan Batteries, also a leading solar batteries producer, says the investment should go beyond cost, but the moral reason for saving the planet.
I think the pressure is on for all of us, no matter what country you're in, right? I think, you need to have this push not only from the government or from certain institutions. It has to go through this society, in my point of view, right? So I see this in Germany. I know everyone, talks that German can afford it, but this is not the question about only affording it. This is really the willingness. Do I want to offer my child and my child's child a happy life and, going out in the countryside and breathe fresh air? That, for me, is a key question. And frankly, the Germans still need to actually look into Africa and say, hey, how, all those decentralized systems, what they already have, what the solar system they already have, we should look into this and place it also into Germany, right? We do see a movement in Germany on this right now, but I think there could be much more to be done.
All is not lost yet in Ghana. The National Lotteries has so far installed 30,000 panels on e-kiosks to take pressure off the national grid.
The current design, what makes it a little expensive is the solar component, which for us this day and age, we must move from the national grid to renewable energy if we can. We believe that if we're going to have 40,000 of this or 30,000 of this, it gives us in the vicinity of about 20 megawatts of renewable energy off the national grid. We're also looking at how we can even crystallize it and then send it back to the national grid when we are not using the energy. So it's very important, and they are calling on the government to subsidize that aspect of it because part of the Millennium Development Goal. And we think the way we have energy issues, it is imperative that we move the energy from the national grid and have our own LMC or e-kiosk solar.
But the issue of cost will not go away as operators are asking for a rebate.
We are over 10,000. And if over 10,000, do we have such spaces to place all 10,000 kiosks? And with the pricing, because according to the sales, some people do sell well, others don't sell. So how many people will be able to acquire those containers, these e-kiosks? So that's our beef.
The kiosk we are selling is okay, but to get a e-kiosk there, we don't like the e-kiosk.
So you're okay where you are?
Yeah. I have 5 kiosks at the Dansuma. From here, I go to Dansuma.
You don't like all these?
Oh, this one, we don't like it. We don't like it.
If they can give the kiosk for us to pay small, that one, yearly or installment, we will like it. But for the meantime, the receivers, we don't have money, sad money.
Energy Commission has issued provisional licenses for more than 1.8 gigawatts of generating capacity of solar. It is expected that it will go a long way to change the dynamics when it comes to renewable energy. This will, however, not meet our 10% renewable energy capacity by 2030, since Ghana is currently only doing 0.6%. Okay.
And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Many thanks for joining me today. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. You have a good afternoon.